Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning in and participating in this virtual CQ convention. I wish we would be meeting under different circumstances in Orlando, but we got to deal with what we have, right? Today is all about organizational cultures, evolving and strengthening those in your organizations. Now, this COVID-19 pandemic, what it showed many of us is that we're not prepared for things like this. And many companies struggle under current circumstances. Even through these difficult times, Nightingale College is able to flourish. And that is all because of the culture that we have built in this institution over the past 8 years. Look, developing an org culture that would allow someone to flourish through a pandemic is not an easy task. It requires a lot of time, it requires a lot of energy, it requires a lot of investment. And we have done that, and we've learned quite a bit over the past 8 years, and would like to share our learnings with you. So Henry Ford famously said, "Why is it every time that I ask for a pair of hands, they come with a brain attached?" Obviously, look, we know that there is no separating the brain and the hands. We act, however, that as though the brain didn't exist. We don't recognize people in the companies as human beings. We look at them as machines or processes. And look, the truth of the matter is, human beings bring all of their humanity with them into the workplace. All of the wonderful sides of it, but also all of their fears, all of their doubts, all of their uncertainties, anger, hate, all of that stuff that we as human beings possess. Because we truly operate from two default systems. There is the ego, which has all of this stuff that I just mentioned, and then there is the deeper being that brings things like trust and love and kindness and humility with it. So, unfortunately, the companies for the longest time have ignored the fact that people that work for them are actual human beings. And the company, altogether, it's just a collection of people that get together with the purpose of achieving some goal and some outcome, and then they utilize certain systems and processes in order to achieve those goals. So since the Industrial Revolution, we've focused quite a bit on systems and processes within the companies. And we've been able to perfect those pretty well. Look, as of late, technology does quite a bit for us, and since the 1950s, we've been looking at perfecting the process through some of the quality improvement undertakings. But we have done very little, almost nothing, to really look at the people side of the company equation. So hence, it brings us to this management dilemma. We have tried managing people in the same way we would manage a process. So we, in managing people, we focused on motivating them through some elaborate system of carrots and sticks, of the reward and punishment, thinking that is exactly what motivates them. As a matter of fact, I would like to read a quote here for you. Research shows that nowadays most employees across industries spend inordinate amount of work time covering up their weaknesses, managing other people's impressions of them, showing themselves to the best advantage, playing politics, hiding their inadequacies, hiding their uncertainties, hiding their limitations. And that results in tremendous waste and losses for every company out there. That is because people are pre-programmed really to operate from this ego place and protect themselves from anything that may come at them. Now, at Nightingale, we started asking the question, well, how can we change that? How can we motivate folks without these systems of rewards and punishments? And what we discovered, and we looked actually back to a very well-known motivational framework, and that is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And what this particular framework suggests is that human beings are only motivated by several things. And those motivations are universal. So unless you focus on motivating people through these very universal constructs, it is not going to work. And so this theory has been around since 1930s, where Dr. Maslow came up with 5 levels of human motivation, or 5 levels of human needs. And he said, look, in order to accomplish higher level needs, you have to be accomplishing the lower level need first. And then, as the peak of the pyramid, in his time, he proposed that self-actualizing, or being actually what one is potentially, was the high level of human achievement. And that is, in other words, being, when somebody is self-actualizing, they're being the best that they could possibly be at any point in time. Now, the work that's been done by positive psychologists since Maslow suggests another several levels. And I'm going to walk you through just briefly through these frameworks, just to make sure, and from the standpoint of psychology, so you all understand what they mean. So physiological needs refers to the basic human needs, like air and water and food in order to survive. And unless those things are present, we cannot be thinking about or being motivated about and achieving anything at all. So we all need water, we all need food. Thankfully, we do well enough in our communities with access to those things. Of course, unless you're in Flint, Michigan, then you probably have a different experience there. However, for most of us, it is fine. Without being healthy, some of these higher level motivations do not come into play. So that's physiological. Safety needs. So safety, really, Maslow described it as, and really achieving that level would be the ability to live in a space beyond fear. And so that space only exists when the shelter is there and it's safe for you to go home and be in a safe environment. It also nowadays, a lot of work issues fall under the safety concerns and the safety motivation. So fear is a absolutely a great motivator, and for as long as it exists, the safety needs cannot be truly met. Then belonging and love, and it's really because we are social beings. It is really all about being able to connect with other people and to find common ground with other people and appreciate each other. Esteem needs, it's all about building this ability to recognize the worth in you as a human being. And we build it in children by initially motivating them through, again, rewards when they do something great, and then eventually it builds and should build into self-esteem. Unfortunately, the vast majority of the population suffers from this condition of low self-esteem. So finally, I already talked about self-actualizing. Cognitive needs refer to our need to learn, continual need to learn, not just when we're young. And then aesthetic needs, the need to see beauty and create something. It refers to that. And transcendence, go read up on it. I'm not gonna dig into it. So later in his career, Maslow did some industrial research. He observed humans at work. And based on that research, and combining all of the research that he's done prior to that, he proposed that, look, in order to make the world a better place, in order for more people to self-actualize, organizations need to start designing themselves around that idea, because there's another way to do that through having access to positive psychologists for somebody just from the time they're very small, and kind of somebody who would guide them through this process. Now, that is unscalable. So he said the best next thing then lies with organizations. And if we start looking at human beings as human beings in the organizations, and then start designing the systems that address those human beings' deficiency needs, so kind of the lower 4 levels, and then allow them to meet their growth needs, which is the top 3 levels. That is where really the answer to a better world lies. We absolutely at Nightingale, we believe in this, we subscribe to this idea, and we work very hard to create organization and to maintain organization that allows people to do just that, allows them to meet the deficiency needs, and allows them to elevate along their the needs pyramid. And so when everybody, or as more and more people start self-actualizing within the organizations, this is the type of environment that in fact is created. The environment is honest and healthy and happy and forgiving and trusting. And so imagine what a company like that can do, and how the company like that would behave, for example, in a time of really acute uncertainty that we're experiencing now. So I, for example, don't have to imagine it, because I work in a company like that, and I see it day in, day out. And that's going back to what I mentioned in the beginning of our organization flourishing through this time. This is exactly what is happening. And it is happening because we have implemented the Maslow's framework some time ago. But the Maslow's framework alone isn't quite enough to create a really robust organizational structure. Another thing that we have to focus on is was proposed by Simon Sinek some years ago. He said, look, and he calls this the golden circle. He said, for a company to be successful, every single individual within that company has to understand 3 things, and has to really understand them very well. So those things are why the company exists, what the company does, and then how that company executes. And so unless everybody within an organization really understands that and grasps that and can verbalize it and can then live it, companies are not positioned to be as successful as they otherwise would be. So what we did at Nightingale, we took the Maslow framework, and we took the golden circle framework of Simon Sinek, and we married those together to come up with this. This is what we call the Core 7 framework. Now, as I walk you through our organizational framework and our structure, I would like you to kind of reflect and think about your organization in this context. I would like you to also think about, as we go through this, think about the Maslow's pyramid and how well your company is positioned, and what kind of resources and what kind of structures, what kind of processes does it have in order to ensure that all of those people that work for you, that they are actually able to meet their deficiency needs and again elevate along that structure. So while we're walking through this, I will point out that where exactly and what Nightingale College uses, what methods, what processes, what techniques Nightingale College uses in order for our collaborators, we call them, address the different levels of Maslow. So for example, you can ask yourself this question. Does my company focus on wellness and on the everybody who works for us, employees, on their health, really, and helping them through that process? Do you? Does your company, if we look at the safety level, do people in your company think that that they're safe? Or are they constantly afraid from making a mistake or losing their job, for example? So start processing that as we go through Nightingale's system. Belonging and love. Does everyone in the organization, in your organization, is interconnected and relates to everybody else and has common goals and feels like they're part of the community? So that's a question to ask. Esteem. Is your company set up for building esteem in its employees? And cognitive needs. Is there a culture of lifelong learning that is happening and continuous learning, really, day in, day out? Have you done that? Aesthetically, are your employees allowed to create freely without fearing any type of retribution in cases that they're fail? So yeah, start processing all of this as we go through the Core 7 framework of Nightingale College. In order to get us going through this Nightingale College case study and our Core 7 framework, the first thing we have to explore is why our company exists. And here in the center you see our vision: better health and better humanity for a better world. And look, to some of you it may seem very aspirational, right, and very big and very amorphous, and that's understandable. For us, however, it is the reason to keep going and the reason to get up in the morning and go to work and continue doing everything that we do. So this, what you see in front of you, is the baseline. This is what we see in the world today. As you'll notice, coronavirus is there, along other things. It's when I look at the world and the worst parts of it, I really I pause and it saddens me, really. However, I know that we can do something about this, and certainly going back to what Maslow said, it is possible. It is possible to build and create a better world. Now, imagine for just a second a world that is full of people who are actually self-actualizing. So people who are not bothered by the ambiguous, people who are grateful, people who can relate to other people and no matter who those others are, people who enjoy the journey of learning and developing and prioritizing that above any particular destination or a title, for example. Imagine the world full of people like these. And many of these faces are likely familiar to you. The fourth from the left is Florence Nightingale, our famous namesake. We just celebrated her 200th birthday in May. And look, all of these people, they were not perfect by any means. However, they were self-actualizing, meaning their contributions to the world were just immeasurable. And the mark that they left in the world is fantastic. And look, our belief at Nightingale is that all of us can. All of us absolutely can, given the right guidance. We can all arrive in that self-actualizing place and then leave a really, really important mark and positive impact on the world. And so because of that, we design this culture, and we work on creating what we call the U 2.x. Inviting everybody who works for us to operate not from the ego side of things, again, that brings with it so much pain, but from the being side of things. And little by little, as everybody starts meeting their deficiency needs on a Maslow's hierarchy and kind of the growing within their aesthetic needs and cognitive needs, they start to contributing better and better toward the company. So there's a definite side effect on the organization, a positive side effect of better financial performance, better operational performance, but also that positive impact extends to their families and extends to their communities. And by the 6 degrees of separation really extends to the rest of the world. And so we at Nightingale, we believe that better world is possible, and we believe that we can be the builders of it. And so look, and so we have a lot of hope in what we do. And once again, as I mentioned earlier, and I repeat it again, if we did not have the organizations that we do, we would be struggling, absolutely struggling through this time of uncertainty, like so many do. And we're not only not struggling, but we also are flourishing at this time because we have this, and we're building that just better health and better humanity. So then, now we've addressed the why this organization exists, and look, it's really that's really personal to all of us. The next thing to look at is what it is that we do, because getting to that why. It would be nice, if we had unlimited resources and would be able to just invite many people in and say, hey, just continue growing, and elevating and meeting your needs, and we have all the time in the world. Well, we don't, and we have to somehow fund all that wonderful growth. So we do that through our mission. So our mission has 3 different components: elevating education, elevating health, and elevating employment. Within elevating education, we work on creating equity in access to education, creating socioeconomic equity, creating demographic equity, creating geographic equity in access for those folks that would like to become healthcare professionals, nurses at this point. We also make sure that what we deliver, the curricula that we deliver within our programs are relevant to today and the future, and they're not a simple regurgitation of 40-year-old traditions that exist. Look, nothing wrong with tradition, but education has to continually evolve in order to stay relevant for the world and the marketplace. So in elevating health, we really approach focusing on, certainly we start with our collaborators, with a focus on wellness and driving their health up. But we also infuse that with our learners. And through this changes in curriculum and keeping the curriculum relevant, we're making sure that those who we graduate, they really understand how the healthcare system in this country works and what exactly that would change that healthcare system and what would allow it to elevate beyond the just completely unsustainable path and pretty poor outcomes for the spending that we do that exist today. So we're focused on things like health promotion and prevention of diseases and effective chronic diseases management as part of our curricula. Hence again, helping our graduates to go out into their communities and work with the populations on elevating that health. Look, health is the bottom line. Without the population health, the economy cannot be healthy. And so we understand that really, really well. Our graduates understand that well. So they understand where to start the economic transitions of their communities and economic transitions of their organizations. It has to start with the focus on health, and not in a reactionary way, but in a very, very much promoting health manner. Now, our mission statement is very succinct. It's to the point. We're able to measure every single component within it. It serves as the basis for our institutional effectiveness plan, which accreditors love. And it allows us to keep focused and really, really keep dialed in on what it is that we do. Now, as I mentioned before, this is according to Simon Sinek, but we found it to be true. Every single individual that works in a company doesn't need to memorize the statement, but they have to be able to, to reiterate the gist of it. They have to be able to recall what the mission is all about, what it is that we do, and also they absolutely have to be able to connect themselves and their role in the company to the mission. Now, meet Nina. So Nina is our operations coordinator. She manages the office, manages the front desk, and then she manages different aspects of just operations support. Now, I've asked Nina to put together this for me, so to describe her connection to the mission of the college. Now, she was gracious and has done that and did a really, really beautiful job conveying how she is connected to what it is that we do. And so I ask you this, can everyone in your organization do this? Can every single individual that works in your company on demand just produce something like this and say, hey, this is how I'm contributing to the mission. This is how I am individually connected to it. If not everyone can, you're not as effective as you can be as an organization. Now, also, what this does, this connection of an individual contributor to the mission, what it allows in terms of the Maslow's hierarchy, and it's highlighted there, and you'll see that on other slides as well, it allows the belonging level and belonging need of the Maslow's hierarchy to be addressed through work. It also allows the esteem to build when everybody just understands what their contributions, actual contributions are. And then when they see the company's success, they can absolutely say, oh yeah, look, I participated in that. I've contributed to that. I've built that. If, I don't know what else would create esteem as much as this can. And then it also allows our cognition to kick in all the time, and this learning to continually happen as every single person continually reevaluates their connection to the company and their connection to the mission. So really, really important. Assignment number one, really, go ahead and make sure that every single person that you hire understands this, and every single person that's already there is on board as well. Now that we've talked about the what and the why of Nightingale College, we come to the crux of it. How? How do we do this? And really, there's three components to this. It's innovative design, collaboration, and alignment. And I'll talk about each one of them individually and only give you just a taste of different things that happen within each of these components. So innovative design, really, it's all about constantly challenging the status quo. Constantly asking the question, and this is not just myself or leadership of the college, this is every single collaborator in every single role, constantly asking themselves, is this the best we can do here? Is this the best way to do something? And is there a different way to do something and achieve perhaps a better outcome? And certainly we invite this notion of, if you feel too comfortable in your job, it probably is time to change something within it, to change your processes, to change the systems, and to be able to drive the outcomes forward. Because without that constant challenging of what exists, better outcomes are just not possible. And many of you know that. But we institute this company-wide. And in order to promote it, we have to, the very first thing that has to be addressed is every individual's safety needs. Because as soon as people start questioning something or creating something new, many times the first iterations of that new design may be flawed, and it may fail. So does safety exist in order for people to be able to do that? And we absolutely create that by inviting failure all the time. We actually convey to every single person that comes through our doors that failing is sort of a job requisite, without which we would not be able to develop and grow and to learn from it. So it's never punished. The only thing that we ask that every single person who fails to do is to learn from that failure, to tweak whatever it is, the design, the approach, the system that they've been using, and then go at it again until a successful outcomes comes about. So obviously this builds esteem as well. This addresses the cognitive needs, addresses the aesthetic needs, and pushes folks to elevate toward that self-actualizing threshold. Now, another thing that is very, innovative design driven at Nightingale is our language. We have very unique language. We take common words and we adapt them to us to make sure that the words that we use within the organization, especially within the culture, that they describe precisely what it is we're trying to say. So, for example, we call our students learners. To me, Look, and we see a lot of this. To me, a student is somebody who, moves away from college, from mom and dad, drinks beer for 4 years, and then moves back with parents. That's a student. Learner, on the other hand, is something very different. This describes the role of the student precisely. They're here to learn. They're here to grow. Hence, learner. Employee versus collaborator. You've heard me throughout this presentation use this several times. Again, employee is, it doesn't tell me anything. It tells me that there is a transactional exchange that happens between a company and an individual. Collaborator, however, dials in that role much, much better. We're here to create together. We're here to drive outcomes together. We're here to build this company and this culture together. We use alignment for fit, evalvitude, isn't that a cool word, for values. So again, by creating the unique language, what you are addressing, the levels on the Maslow that you're addressing is belonging and love. You're creating a community. A really solid, interconnected community cannot exist without having a common language. And so this common language allows us to bring people closer together and to collaborate better. And it certainly addresses the cognitive needs of individuals as well. Now let's talk about collaboration. That is the crux of everything that we do here. There are two types of it. There is internal collaboration and external one. So internal collaboration is what we do within. It's making sure that the decisions that we make are done in concert with others, that we constantly connect with others, and really persistently communicating with other people. So as you can see, we utilize even, this picture was taken prior to COVID-19 pandemic, and we have utilized the remote communication technologies and video communications for quite a while now. Hence, again, the transition to fully remote work wasn't that big of an issue for us. And so we use different systems. We use Teams, Microsoft Teams, and this is from WebEx right there on the screen. So we make sure, though, that everybody's camera is on. Seeing the person in addition to hearing them speak increases our connection with each other. And again, it addresses that belonging need that we all have. External collaboration, it's all about different external partners. Look, our model of delivery of education pushes us to collaborate with hundreds and hundreds of employers, healthcare employers throughout the country. We operate from Alaska, everywhere from Alaska to Pennsylvania, across the country, and constantly expanding those constantly expanding the partnerships that we have. And we'll listen to our employer partners. They absolutely inform our curriculum. They guide us in certain things we do and how we approach education and the learners. So it's not this, what I'm trying to convey is that the collaboration with employers shouldn't just be limited to the advisory board that is required by your accreditor. It should be all about constant and continual dialogue with those folks. Obviously, there's some accreditors on here that allow us to do, some vendors that allow us to do everything that we do. Finally, we come to alignment. And alignment is a big piece of how this culture is glued together and how we're able to let everybody know of what is expected. Alignment has three different flavors to it, and it denotes the degree to which the collaborators accept and model and contribute to the college's vision, mission, and values. So organizational alignment refers to our mission, our vision, our values. As I mentioned earlier, we introduce every single new collaborator to these constructs, the mission, the vision, the values construct, on the very first day of employment. And we continually reiterate that throughout throughout their tenure. It's essentially speaking about the mission and vision and values is a daily conversation here. A daily dialogue, whether it's a one-on-one dialogue between a function leader and a collaborator who works within that function, or cross-functional decisions that we have to make. We always refer to this. And so the sort of like with Nina, that our operations coordinator that I shared with you before, every single person has to find that connection. Every single person has to find the alignment to these things. And so the connection, look, and those, and the importance of this cannot be overstated. The connection to the vision, if the vision is, or the mission, to anyone who works in an organization is just a bunch of words, and sort of it doesn't become meaningful, and there is no personal connection to it, it is not going to work. It's just not going to work for that person. So we're very, very carefully in auditioning, essentially, everybody who comes here for the work in the organization, and we, as a matter of fact, uninvite some individuals very early on, even within the first week within the orientation, in order to support their safety. Anybody who says, "Now, you know what? It used to make sense to me. Now it doesn't make sense to me. I want to go somewhere else. I don't want to work here anymore." So somebody initiates a separation from us, or we initiate it. Everyone has the opportunity to take care of, to take advantage of severance, which it's something that we do to support that transition of the individuals. However, the vast majority of people get this from day one, and they're able to align with the rest of the organization and start quickly contributing to it. I'll speak a little bit to the values. The values are important, and in your organization, if the values is just a statement that is written somewhere, and maybe people have to recite, but that's about the extent of it. Again, you perhaps are not utilizing the framework as effectively as you could be utilizing it. Look, values have to be modeled. And unless values are modeled at the very top, so the heads of the organization, the senior leadership in the organization, unless they're modeling these values, they're not going to permeate across the organization, and all you're going to have, people being cynical about the value statement. Now at Nightingale, as I mentioned before, our value statement is called Evolvitude, and there are all different words that you would normally see from in an organization's value statement. So it has three different parts to it. The top part, their core values. It speaks to our embodiment of these things, and really this call to operate, to behave, to make decisions from the being operating system instead of from the ego. The middle portion is aspirational. Those things are really, really, really difficult to achieve. Things like self-governance that every individual possesses, although we don't allow people to really exercise this in our organization many times. So these are aspirational things, and again, we invite everyone to elevate toward these things. And then the last portion is foundational or permission to play kind of values, where you have to make decisions. Everybody within the organization has to make decisions considering all of these things as a package. And if a decision somehow varies off these, we ask the person to make a different decision that would actually align with these values. So addressing safety needs here, and the way the safety needs are addressed is we let everybody know, look, this is all you have to do, essentially. You don't have to ever guess of how to be safe within the organization, how to keep your job forever, if you want to keep it forever, till you retire. All you have to do is live this. And when because all of us are human, when you make an error, when you make a mistake, own up to it. Hence, accountability is there, and then learn from it, and then move forward, and that's all. So safety is created through the values, if you're utilizing it correctly. It creates the community. It creates the sense of belonging and love within the community. It builds esteem. As somebody who has been working on this stuff for a while, it took me several years and really deliberate, intentional way of pushing it to become more kind and more patient. I wasn't doing that well with those things before, and now I think anybody within the organization can tell you that I am kinder, I am more patient, I'm a better human being. So and everybody is invited on that journey, and and we acknowledge ahead of time that none of us are infallible. We all can become better and elevate, and this just serves as a guide for it. Operational alignment talks about there's two parts to it, and it's all about the nuts and bolts of what we do. So within every role, we ask that every collaborator has the passion for what it is that they do, and then they have the right set of skills, and continuing developing those skills in order to be successful in meeting the outcomes of their role. If either part of the left side of the equation isn't present, the person is not going to be effective in their role. You can have passion but no skills for something. Obviously that doesn't work. And you can have a lot of skills, but if you're not passionate about what it is that you do, the result is not going to be there. So we work very, very hard to ensure that this alignment exists. And what we use, and we've recently implemented this, is and with the help of Predictive Index, a company, it's kind of science-based company that's been around for 50 years or so. We evaluate everybody's briefcase, first of all, their knowledge, their skills, their experience, in order to align them with the role. And then we look at their values and their interests, and so the passion side of things. And then these assessments that we administer, PI assessments that we administer, both cognitively and behavioral assessment, help us navigate the relationship with every individual, and it helps individuals within the company to create the relationships, build the relationships, improve communication with each other. So cognitive assessment really talks to how adaptable folks are and how quickly they can learn and something new. And both in terms of skills and knowledge, but also from the standpoint of adaptability, to evolvitude, for example. And behavioral assessment just places them in a predetermined bucket, and that allows, again, and produces some reports that allow for better communication. So this is to make sure that, and remembering that the whole person shows up at work is really, really important. This allows us to determine that. This is my own behavioral assessment. You're probably not surprised, those of you who know me, that the dominance is of the charts, of the roof, and if I would have, if I would just leave it unchecked, this organization would just absolutely crumble. So I have to really work very hard on dialing it down and allowing other people to, be in the arena and speak and voice their opinions and drive things forward. Then the next piece of operational alignment is our functional alignment. And it really is all about how well functions within the college click together, and how well we can do things both across functions and within the functions. So it's all about the systems, the processes, and so on, and the structure itself. So the hierarchy, that's the structure that is near and dear to everybody's heart, I'm sure. It exists in vast majority of the organizations, and nowadays in the business world, it's not really effective. So if you have something like this within the organization, and look, I know for example, for accreditation purposes, regulatory purposes, somebody needs to be on top of that chain and on top of that pyramid. Somebody has to go to prison if something doesn't, quite happen the way it should. But it's not really effective on the operational side. So it's inefficient. Decisions take way longer than they should take, and then the information inevitably gets lost in translation as it goes from one level to the next level to the next level. And so by the time a decision is made, it's not really based on the facts that somebody had at the point of impact where they are waiting for that decision. And then when decisions are not made at every single level according to the role that the person holds in their particular work, the sense of accountability disappears. And so again, not the greatest structure. This is a better one. Everybody is connected to everybody else within the company by the shortest possible route. Now, this speeds up communication. This really keeps the accountability and decision-making at the point of impact, and it also creates the sense of community. The one thing that may be not sitting well with you as you look at this picture is the notion of, well, this looks like chaos, and how do you control this? How do you make sure that people are doing what they're supposed to be doing, and they're making the right decisions, and so forth. So our entire culture, our entire Core 7 framework addresses that. The alignment pieces, the all of the other alignment pieces, every single individual being able to verbalize their connection to the mission, and so forth. So it really, really works well within the organization. It creates safety as well, because there's not somebody hanging over your head all the time and dictating to you what it is to do, which improves esteem, engages your cognitive needs, and creates, at the end of the day, way better outcomes. Now, in order to help our teams, in order to help that process to gel, based on the predictive index reports, we're able to produce these team communications and team dynamics tools that everybody on the team can have, and then it really guides them through how to address each other and how to communicate with each other based on the specific individuals that comprising that team or that committee, and we have many ad hoc committees, so people are able to pull these reports and then to navigate their team dynamics way better. Now, the final piece of alignment is elevational. It comes in three different flavors. There's personal elevation, and personal elevation is all about the somebody's movement along that motivational pyramid of Maslow. It's all about really becoming a better human being. It all is there, and we again, this alignment idea really pushes everybody, invites and strongly encourages to continue that journey nonstop. And then the professional elevation is just like it sounds. We invest quite a bit in skills development and continuing education on the professional side, and certainly educational refers to formal continuing education, which we support as well, and pretty much everything. This elevational alignment addresses absolutely everything along Maslow's. Now, in order for to operationalize further this alignment idea, two things are needed. The self-reflection is really, really important, and everybody is invited to devote some time, some of their work time, to self-reflect, on a very regular basis, not only about their job and how well they're doing and their outcomes within the job, but also the way on their humanity, and are they being the best human being they can be, and are they communicating in the most effective way? Are they dominant, so dominant that, just like me, that they're suffocating everybody else? And so that's what we're asking there. Now, and then there's ongoing dialogue between, as I said, function leaders and collaborators among function leaders, and we use some tools for that as well. So this is my predictive index development chart, and so it just lets me know that, especially with the dominance thing again, that I'm really off the charts here, and so it gives me specific, concrete strategies to be able to dial it down and be a little, become a little better. So there are self-coaching tips there, and that applies to every metric within the predictive index behavioral report. So this really helps me to reflect and then put something into place that helps me elevate. Now, also there's dynamics reports between two individuals. It takes any two behavioral profiles and it marries them together, and it lets everyone know how to approach that communication, how to approach that relationship in order for it to be more effective. Because look, as human beings, we're not intuitive at all as to how to communicate better and how to navigate relationships. So this really helps. Left to our own devices, we would not be as effective as we can be. So that's that. That's the how. In a nutshell. Now, we've really worked many years on implementing this, and on thinking through it and designing it and reading a lot of things that are out there. When we first started on this journey, we weren't even sure that this could work. And then along the way, we discovered that there are some other organizations like ours, and they're called the deliberately developmental organizations, that have been doing this for a while. And there's, I'll share it at the very end. There are a couple of texts out there that can help you building a deliberately developmental organization. And on this list, there are companies in different industries of different sizes and in different countries. But the uniting characteristic of all of them is that as the central business strategy, they focus on the development of their employees. And again, they're very dedicated to it. They invest a lot of resources into it. However, what all of them also share is that their outcomes are stellar. Their financial results are better than of their peers, and their businesses are flourishing. And so I would be interested at a certain point to learn how these companies fared through not only Nightingale, but other folks that are DDOs fared through this COVID-19 crisis, and how they have adapted to it, and whether or not they skipped a bit or not. I would venture to say that just like Nightingale, these companies did fairly well through this uncertain time. So these are a few books that we read after the fact, and I'm happy to report that what we have done at Nightingale aligns with things that have been published. And after we've discovered some of these texts, and Everyone Culture, which was published in 2016, and we discovered it in 2017, and then Reinventing Organizations was published in 2014, but we didn't discover it till about 2017. We are, again, able to see that our processes, our systems, our culture has many common elements with some other organizations. And then Maslow on management, really, that's the research that I mentioned before from the 1960s, and this gives the theoretical foundation to creating enlightened, as Maslow called them, organizations. So highly recommend it. Again, I'm not getting. By the way, Predictive Index is not paying me either to promote them. Neither are any of these authors. So feel free to engage with those companies if you'd like to. Either continue or start on the journey of reinventing your organization and creating a different culture. This would not be possible. Look, I've emmed and all sorts of sounds through this presentation. Not the best at it. However, none of this would be possible without these great folks, my collaborators, and they've put in a lot of work into this, and the vast majority of them are here in the room, patiently watching this sometimes painful recording. Anyway, thank you all, and if any of you want to ask questions, I invite you to connect as well. LinkedIn, there's never enough connections on LinkedIn, so please connect. Please send me your questions. I'll be happy to answer them. And thank you so much for enduring through this. And I wish you all the best in surviving and hopefully flourishing through this tough time, and then all the best with your organization and maybe evolving your cultures. Thank you.